Hello, everyone. My name is Shay Moraga with Shay's Life After Cancer. And today I have the unique privilege to be able to talk to and be able to help share the story of our dear friend and warrior sister, breast cancer thrive, Fran. Fran, thank you for being here today. It's Cancer Awareness Month and being a part of this whole experience really brings you to a club that no one was part of, but then once you are, it's like we're besties, right?
Right.
Could you start off by sharing a little bit about your story and maybe how you found out? Just tell everybody like how you found out, what type of breast cancer you had.
So I found out on November 3rd, 2020. Is that right? Yeah, 2020. It was actually election night, and I was home alone, and I received a call from my doctor that I had stage 3 HER2 positive, hormone negative ductal carcinoma. And to me, all of that was just foreign language. So basically, I knew that I had breast cancer, and I was home alone. So I called my husband and asked him to please come home. And that was on a Tuesday. On Thursday, I went to the hospital up in Moreno Valley with Kaiser. And the following Friday, I started chemo. In that time, I had had my port put in and had all pre-tests to make sure I was healthy enough to withstand the chemo. What else? Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. That's a lot of stuff to deal with today. How hard was it to find out over the phone and by yourself?
Well, I kind of had a pretty good idea that I did have breast cancer because I had chosen to watch my entire biopsy up on the screen. And I'm not a doctor, but I could just tell that something wasn't, something wasn't right. But to be home by myself and be told over the phone by my doctor, it was 7:30 at night. It was heartbreaking. And through this entire journey, nobody ever took the time to let me know that I was going to live. We were very deep in COVID. I worked at a school at the time, and our kids were not in school. We worked from home part-time and worked at the school part-time. And so I really had nobody to talk to.
I can't even imagine going through COVID and then also getting the call that I had breast cancer. I mean, trauma and just now what would have gone through my mind. If you were able to go back to that point in time, knowing what you know now, are there things that you would have done differently about your breast cancer journey, or maybe even spoke to your doctor about now versus then? Because I know when we're first given that diagnosis, it's like everything is hitting us at once. Now that you've had a few years, we're out of COVID, you've had a chance to kind of get through the last couple years, is there anything that you would do differently or say to someone going through this process?
Well, I come from an era where breast cancer or any kind of cancer really was a death sentence. And so I really didn't know I was going to live. And had I had I just went. They told me, you go here, you do this appointment, you do this appointment, you do this surgery, you do this, you do that, you do this chemo. And I just blindly trusted them because I didn't even know what questions to ask at the time. But I think the first question I would have asked would have been, am I going to survive this? And that's probably the biggest thing, was I didn't know if I was going through all of this for nothing. Because the first 4 chemos, I thought, I know why people choose not to do chemo and just choose to let the cancer do whatever and choose to die. And so, because they were horrible, and I know others have been through worse, but this is my journey. And at the time, I really, truly didn't know if I was going to make it through those first 4 chemos. And I can't say my oncologist was very good. So I really didn't have a rapport with her. I had a better relationship actually with the oncology pharmacist than I did with my oncologist.
Do you think that it was hard for you in the times that we were in at that time to be able to communication with your doctor and really be an advocate for yourself? Would you say that maybe going through that during that time, you were a lot more passive because it was such a scary time on top of what you were already going through?
Yeah. And I think the thing is that even the doctors didn't know what to do. Even the medical, they were still, we closed down in March, and this is November of that same year. And they were still trying to figure it out. Medical people were trying to figure out how to treat us and keep us from getting COVID. And so I didn't even know how to advocate for myself. And basically, the world was crazy. It was the same thing at school. Every day something changed. Well, the kids might come back. The kids might not come back. And with me, it was, you're going to go through chemo and your husband can never enter that room with you. And my kids never saw me in chemo. My family was very divided also at the time over to be vaccinated or not vaccinated. And that caused just one more stress that I probably could have lived without, but it was the way of life at the time.
Right. Whew. I mean, really, right?
Yeah.
Oof, that's a lot. I assume that because of that timing, what you were just saying, there was a lot of divisions between families, between friends, there was divisions with the medical community, and then people trying to get time. What did you learn that people should say or not say to someone going through cancer, whether you're a patient that's just starting out the journey like you were, or even up until you became that survivor? Things that people shouldn't say to people like us. Your opinion.
For me, my biggest thing was everybody wanted to tell me their story. And many of the people here in the Valley that I knew who had been through cancer had gone through Eisenhower, Lucy Kersey. While I was at Kaiser, I was going through a completely different journey, and I had to trust them. And so people telling me their story of exactly like what happened and stuff, it didn't help me at all, because we were in such a different time. I mean, I did 26 rounds of chemo with a mask on, so I couldn't even breathe fresh air while I was having chemo. And at times that was very difficult. And I talked a little bit with other people having chemo, but we really couldn't get to know each other because we couldn't see each other's faces. And so it was very isolating, which makes sense because the pandemic was very isolating.
Yeah, and cancer itself, I think, whether it was during the pandemic or it wasn't. I had my breast cancer in 2016 and noticed that that was very isolating in itself because exactly what you're saying, it's your journey. No one else can walk that walk for you.
Exactly.
And how the medicines and the treatments affect you may not have affected me the same way. But so many people want to tell you their story because as human nature is we just want to connect somehow and want to make you feel better, or we are nervous and we want to, so we want to tell you the story, right?
Right.
um what is the thing that stands out that maybe someone said to you that just kind of was that moment of aha, I need this now? Did you find boundaries during that time when people were speaking to you?
Honestly, a lot of people weren't speaking to me because nobody could be around me. It was, I started working from home, so I wasn't at work. About 50% of our staff was at school, 50% were working from home. And I mean, really, it was just my husband and I, and my kids weren't coming around. I think also what happens is with cancer, people get scared, almost like it's contagious, which it's, as you and I know, it's not. But on top of it, you added the COVID layer that people didn't want to give me COVID because some of them were out in the workforce. And so it just isolated me. I honestly didn't have a person that was in my tight circle that would drive me to and from chemo and stuff that had cancer.
So you got your chemo,
Hmm.
you had surgery and radiation.
No, I just had I had a chemo. I did a double mastectomy, which was, by the way, outpatient. They sent me home that day. They didn't keep me in the hospital overnight because they
Wow.
didn't want me to catch COVID. And so they just managed my pain and sent us on our merry way. And my husband was amazing. I mean, he was amazing. I've had 3 major surgeries and he has driven me to every single one and driven me home. And um, as far as cancer goes, I did not spend one night in the hospital.
Wow. Wonder Woman right there. Right there. And it sounds like you're married to Superman, right?
Yeah, amazing man. Yeah, we've been married 44 years and he's amazing.
Congratulations. That's
Thank you.
amazing. What every woman needs, especially when you're going through something like you did in that time. Yeah. So tell us now, where are you at today? How did you find Shays Warriors? How are you doing? And what have you been doing to incorporate in your life that has contributed to your thrivership today?
I found Shays Warriors. I think I had signed up for Paint El Paseo Pink and I went to go pick up my shirt and you were there and you just kind of mentioned to me what you guys did. And at that time I was still going through chemo. And between working and getting through chemo, I would try to do chemo on Friday to not inconvenience work so I could go back to work every Monday. And so then I was chosen for the second retreat in June of 2023. And I really didn't know a whole lot about Shays Warriors at the time. I just knew that they tried to support people, life after cancer. And as I was being dropped off at the retreat, I wanted to go home and my husband would not let me. He told me to get my grown ass in there. I had survived cancer and I could survive a weekend at a retreat. And I just fell in love with everybody at the retreat that's involved with Shays. I knew I had found my passion in life. And I went back to work the following Monday, and I felt alive again. I didn't realize I had gone completely numb, that I had completely shut down a lot of my emotions because there was just so much going on between the cancer and COVID. And I have been involved with Shades Warrior since I started, went to the retreat a year ago in June. I work with a lot of the volunteers. I have worked at keeping our retreat group kind of connected to each other and being a support. And I just recently had my implants taken out, actually about a couple weeks ago, and am still, and I have chosen to go flat. And I don't want to be in my 70s or 80s and having to have my implants taken out. The moment I got in the car to come home, I knew I had made the right decision. And I'm very involved with Shays Warriors, will continue to be, and hope to be able to help others who have been in my place and are going to be in my place. And 2 nights after I had my implants out, I walked into a Shays Warrior meeting, and there was something so comforting knowing that I could tell the women I had my implants out and they would understand. And not one of them said why. We each have our own journey and we each have to make our own choices. And it was the most comforting meeting for me, and it was the right place for me 2 days after having them out. And for that, I'm so grateful for Shays.
I think that is such an amazing point that you just said, Fran. The fact that the club that no one wants to be a part of, right?
Right.
And you walk in this ultra secret club, you only get in if you have cancer. And everyone is expecting of you. They don't have questions. They don't have these like, meh? those looks. What? But it's more of like, gosh, are you feeling okay? Is that helping? How's your mental well-being? And now how does that feel physically? It's so empowering and so important people to hear your story that you're sharing right now, because your story is not my story and my story is not your story.
Correct.
And it doesn't matter our cultural background differences, our ages, anything. What really matters is us being able to heal and move forward. Because the other thing you said in the very beginning is, you said, I come from a generation where cancer means death. And Fran, I come from a different generation, and cancer meant death to me. And these conversations that we're having, the survivor to survivors, because now we're thriving, is bring that death word to a conversation so that it doesn't have any power anymore. Because ultimately, we have life and we have death.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if we start talking and sharing these stories with others, hopefully it will help someone maybe who hasn't gone through cancer and educate them a little bit, just to accept us, just to know that this journey is tough and hard. We just sometimes need someone to listen or someone to give us a hug, but maybe not at the time of surgery.
Right.
Right. and just be like, I'm here for you. Everything that you said, I think whether you're from a different generation or it hits home to all of us. Yeah. Thank you for sharing everything that you've shared. What else? Anything else you would like to say to someone, whether they're just starting a journey or they've ended their journey of treatment and sitting there being like, what's next?
Life. That's what's next. Life is what's next. It's we're not just survivors, we're thrivers, and that's what I've gotten, from the organization. And I've also made a lot of new friends that I have a very dear friend, but she's never been through cancer, so she doesn't get it. And there is something so comforting. It doesn't matter what kind of cancer it is, because I don't care if you had breast cancer or ovarian cancer or bone cancer or lung cancer. We've all had cancer. It's just that one word. The diagnosis doesn't really matter so much. It unites us. And like you said, it's a club none of us want to be in. But I think by being a part of Shay's Warriors, we are doing what is best for us and others. And by doing that, it helps us to thrive, not just survive.
Words to end with, Fran. Thank you so much. We are going to live and we are going to thrive, not just survive.
Absolutely.
Fran, thank you for being a part of this Breast Cancer Awareness Month show, Survivors to Survivors to Thrivers. And if anyone out there wants to speak to Fran about her journey, please reach out, get you in contact with Fran. And very grateful to have you a part of our team. And we'll see each other soon. Until then.
Thank you, Shay.
Thank you.